Hello everyone, welcome back to Tartan Samurai Gaming, and today we are playing Eternal Champions. Now I'm going to do a series of playthroughs on this game, but today we'll just start off with one character, and that character is going to be Larcen, the cat burglar. So here's the basic story of the game. The Eternal Champion is from far in the future, and the world has become a complete mess, so he has selected a group of people who were unjustly killed before their time, and each one of them has the potential to change this dark future. So only one of them can get restored to life though, so they have to have a tournament to decide who is gonna get a second shot. So we have 9 fighters from across history, and they will all have to fight it out to decide who gets to go back. Let the contest begin, indeed. So before we start off, I'm just going to show you the background info on the character we're going to be playing as, because this game really tried to build up story, and ahead of its time in that respect. This was 1994, when people didn't really care that much about stories. So Larcen Tyler is our main character today. From 1920, he uses the fighting style of praying mantis kung fu. I'll scroll slowly so you can read it all. So to summarize, the main point of praying mantis kung fu is to be able to take down much bigger and stronger opponents, but with an emphasis on taking them down, not permanently harming anybody. So Larcen was born into an era of crime bosses and racketeering. He grew up respecting and idolizing the many powerful crime bosses who ruled the streets. As a youth, he went to work for Mr. Tagliolini, one of the most powerful bosses. Under his wing, Larcen grew up to be one of the world's best cat burglars. He did many jobs, including the planting of illegal evidence in the hideouts of other crime bosses. The one thing Larcen wouldn't do was kill. Instead, he used his martial arts to stop and drop his attackers. Again, the kung fu emphasis there. One day, Tagliolini asked Larcen to plant a package on a crime boss who was recovering in hospital. But when Larcen went there, he instead found the recovering chief of police who'd been hurt in a prior assassination attempt. The mob wanted the chief dead because he was incorruptible, and was about to declare war on the mob. So Larcen realised he'd been set up, and the package he was carrying probably had a bomb, but at that moment he was too late. He tried to throw a bomb out the window, but it exploded, killing him and the chief, and also most of the people in the hospital, including several children. So our mission is to prevent that atrocity from happening by winning the tournament with Larcen. Enter the contest. Yes, we will. So we're going with Larcen. Now this game doesn't have continues as such, but what happens is, if you lose a fight, you have to go back to your 2 previous opponents. So it's, the controls are not that complicated. You can get knocked dizzy quite easily though if you're not careful. So our first opponent here is Slash, who is, despite his primitive appearance, is a very advanced caveman. And he's just knocked me out. So Slash's story was that he wanted to move people away from hunter-gathering, 50,000 years BC, but his tribe weren't into that, so they stoned him to death. You notice we have these little yin-yang symbols on the sides of the power bars. Those are your, that's your meter for how many times you can do your special moves. Each time you do a special move, you lose part of that meter. So you have to be aware of that. Oh dear, we're down. So, as I said before, no continues as such. We'll just have to do that fight again. I'm still getting to grips with the controls here, so not to worry. It's like this until you reach the Eternal Champion. Once you reach the Eternal Champion, who is the last boss, you only get one shot at him. Well, two shots really, because it's a 2-round fight, but you only have to win one of them. But easier said than done. This game was noted at the time to be significantly more difficult than the likes of Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter. Okay, Larcen wins first round. So among the many features that this game introduced, you know, the idea of fatalities had been popularized by Mortal Kombat at that time, but Eternal Champions did it slightly differently. Each stage had what was called an overkill move, which was basically a stage fatality. But in order to trigger it, you had to defeat your opponent in a very specific spot of the stage, like so. So watch what happens here. Slash gets dragged off and eaten by a dinosaur. So that's how the overkill works. I had to be standing on that very specific spot when I finished off my opponent in order for that to work. And each level has its own version of that. So, Larcen wins, and we move on to our next opponent, who is Trident. Trident is an artificial life form created by the Atlanteans in their war with Rome. Yeah, we're taking some historical liberties here. It's not quite Braveheart levels of historical revision, but it's up there. You notice there that Trident just called me a freak, somewhat ironically. But what happened there was basically he can taunt, and when he taunts, you lose some of your inner strength that we would use to pull off our finishing moves. So Trident is using capoeira, the Brazilian sort of dance-based fighting style. He's a tricky customer, Trident. Not easy to fight against. So, round 1 to Trident. And of course, if we lose to Trident, we'll have to go back and fight Slash again. So we don't really want to do that. One of Larcen's special moves there, the... okay. So you notice though, with the computer controlled characters rather, even when their inner strength is completely drained, they are still able to attack, which I think is a little bit unfair, but there you go. So Trident beat me, so I'm going to have to fight Slash again, because we get kicked back to opponents every time we lose. Oh dear, Slash just hit a home run with me there. Still up on this round though. Oh, yeah, Slash can bat away projectiles, I forgot about that. Alright, Larcen wins, round 1. side throw there to try and get Slash off his game. There we go. One more hit should do it, and he's down. So that time we were in a different position to where we finished the last fight, so this time Slash wasn't knocked away into a dinosaur's mouth. So Trident once again. Let's do it. Okay. As you can see, Trident loves to block and counter, so we've got to try and keep on top of him. Don't give him a chance to regroup. Now, what happened there, when Trident activates that green force field, if I touch it, I would be frozen on the spot, and that is what happened there. We've got the slight upper hand in this round so far, though, although that's not going to help. There we go, 1-0 to Larcen. Throws are very powerful in this game, so you want to try and land them as much as you can. And it's very simple, just punch up close. High punch up close, rather. Oh, and he's hit me with a slow-mo here. Thankfully, it's mercifully quick to get out of. We're getting close here. And he's down. So we move on to the next fight. Larcen wins competition. Okay. So next up, we've got Jetta Max. She is a Russian acrobat who was killed during the Boxer Rebellion in China. And she loves to use that speed up move quite a lot. Not that difficult to fight against though, as long as you know what you're doing. Very susceptible to throws as well, as you can see. So 1-0 to Larcen. So again, every time Jetta jumps in, you just want to try and grab her for a throw, because she's very susceptible to it. Probably the easiest fight in the game, actually, Jetta, if I'm being honest. Although not a bad character when you play as her, just the way that the computer AI utilises her moveset just makes her very easy to counter. So she's down. And Larcen moves on to the next battle. Next fight is Shadow, who is from the present day according to this game's lore, i.e. 1994 Japan. And she is a ninja assassin who decided to change her ways, and as a reward she was unceremoniously thrown off a building. Lots of projectiles and you know, ninja skills here on show. Shadow is one of those characters that quite a frustrating archetype in fighting games. Really hard to fight against, but pretty useless when you play as her. So when Shadow does that teleport, what you want to do is jump, and if you're lucky she'll land right under you and you can get a free hit. Also, that attack, the cartwheel attack, is so telegraphed that as long as you're quick off the mark, you can quite easily counter it. So there are exploits in Shadow's arsenal, but you have to be very lucky and quick to react to them, because she's a tricky fighter. There we go, 1-1. I said, Shadow is one of those characters who's really tough to fight against, but not that great when you play as her, just because her moves are very easy to counter, especially in two-player mode. She benefits a lot from the advantage that the computer-controlled player has in this game, as in they basically have infinite special moves, whereas you don't. So, you know, a bit unfair, but that's how they made the game difficult, I suppose. You know, very much a product of its time, 1994, when balancing wasn't so much an issue of fighting games as making sure you couldn't beat it in a weekend rental was more important. Right, just got to play it smart here and we should be okay. We win. Time out. Take that. Now we're fighting Rax. Now Rax is the most futuristic fighter in the game. He is a kickboxer from 2345 who is cybernetically enhanced. Because every fighting game has to have a cyborg, that's just the rules. As I mentioned during our Shaq Fu playthrough. And Rax is kind of the inverse of Shadow, as in quite an easy fight when you're playing against him, but actually a very good character if you know how to handle him properly when you're playing as him. So he has the most powerful individual attacks in the game, which you would figure because he's basically a more machine than man. You know, you're essentially fighting a kickboxing Robocop here, so yeah. And again, you know, so many of his moves are so easy to counter. And he's down. So Larcen wins, and we move on to our next opponent. Who's next? Ah, Xavier. Okay. So Xavier is a warlock. Well, he was accused of being a warlock. He's actually a very capable scientist who, whilst practicing alchemy, accidentally discovered an unlimited fuel source. Unfortunately, this was in Salem in 1692, so he was consequently burned at the stake for being a warlock. There aren't many fighting games where your opponent will call you a simpleton, so that's quite interesting. And he's down. Eternal Champions had so many great character concepts. Really is a shame that the series never really went anywhere. I'm still hopeful Sega might bring it back, because there's been rumours of them doing a film actually based on the characters, which would be great. And Xavier's down, so Larcen moves on to the next opponent. And our next opponent is Midnight. So Mitchell Knight, to give him his full name, was a scientist who during the Vietnam War was exposed to a chemical mixture that turned him into a living vampire. And unfortunately the US government then used that formula all over southern Asia, creating a vampire pandemic. So Midnight's in the tournament to try and get back to stop himself from being killed before he could cure the virus. And you notice that his hands and feet have kind of rotted away, because basically he has to kill to restore his life force, and he will not kill. Because he's quite a, for such a scary looking character, he's actually quite moral about his approach to life. He won't kill. So you want to block that eye beam, because if that makes contact, he'll draw you towards him for a free hit. Kind of like Quan Chi in Mortal Kombat. I think he has a very similar move. It's kind of funny how all the characters in this game, despite them being some really weird designs, like a living vampire and a warlock and a genetically engineered Atlantean sea monster, all the characters have some sort of scientific basis. They're not fantasy characters, so that kind of is interesting. Again, shows how much thought Sega put into the story for this game. They really were trying to build a universe with this, a universe that might still come back, I hope, somehow. You want to keep Midnight in the corner as much as you can. Kicks and throws and punches are the key. And there we go, he's down. So, move on to the next match. Next up is Blade. Blade is quite an easy fight, if we're being honest, because he's big and strong, but he's slow. So Blade is a Syrian bounty hunter from the year 2030, which, was much further into the future in 1994 than it is now. But he basically was tasked with hunting down a scientist who had a virus that could take out 95% of the human population. And unfortunately for him, just as he got the scientist to give up the vial peacefully, the police showed up and opened fire, killing both of them and unleashing the virus, which I'm assuming caused a lot of trouble across the world. Oh, want to watch out for that spinning blade. As much as that rope swing move looks great, it's so telegraphed that the opponent will block it 99 times out of 100. But we've still got through. So that's Blade out the way. Now on to our next match. Oh, it's the Eternal Champion, the last boss. This is not going to be easy. I lost so many games trying to beat this guy back in the day. So what you want to do is use Larcen's medium jump kick rather than his powerful jump kick, because the Eternal Champion loves to counter jump kicks, but Larcen's medium kick has a longer reach than the champion's regular jump kick, so gives you a better chance of winning that 50-50. Now whenever the champion does that move, try and get as close as you can and land a throw. Throws are your secret weapon here, because the champion is immune to a lot of attacks, but throws, he's as susceptible as any fighter. Okay, phase 1 is down. Now phase 2. So with his initial form defeated, the champion will go through 4 more phases based on the different spirit animals. So next up is the eagle. The eagle isn't that difficult, but he has a torpedo attack that can do a lot of damage and can sometimes break your block as well. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, he's down. So what's he going to go for next? Okay, so tiger, dragon, and shark to go. Who's going to be next? Okay, it's the shark. He has one very annoying wave attack. Apart from that, it's mostly manageable. Yeah, there's the wave attack. So you want to try and jump over that, but it's got a very high hitbox. So your jump timing has to be absolutely spot on, otherwise you're going to get tagged, and it does quite a bit of damage. You see, the key here is medium jump kicks, because he doesn't seem to have a response to those, apart from that fireball. Okay! The shark is down, and we got quite a bit of energy back there as well. So, 2 forms to go, dragon and tiger. Tiger next. Okay, are we close enough to throw him, I wonder? No, we're not. Although, being a speed-based form, if you're quick enough, he does have the same weaknesses as Jetta does in the main game, i.e. tends to jump in far too much and can be countered. Right, he's down. Looking good here. Just the dragon to go. It's tough, but we've got a decent energy bar. We've got a good chance. Okay, final form, dragon. By far the hardest, but still winnable. We're in a good position here. Off to a good start as well, by the looks of it. He just blocks everything and he counterattacks so quickly. Okay, we're almost there. Just gotta hold our nerve here and not get thrown. Oh, this is gonna be so close. Next hit will do it. And he's down! He's down. The champion is defeated. Larcen is going back to the 1920s. We've done it. So, we now get to see what will happen. So the champion has granted us a second chance at life. Use the knowledge of your fate to change the prior outcome. Prepare yourself for the ultimate reward, life. So the Eternal Champion using all the power of his temple to send Larcen back in time. So when Larcen returned, he quickly threw the bomb out the window. He was captured by a couple of policemen standing around to hospitalize police chief. He was brought to the chief's room. The chief was so impressed with Larcen's bravery that he made him a member of a special government task force against organised crime. After months of prep work, the task force took down Tagliolini and his organisation. Larcen went on to head the task force, which eventually widened its scope to include international cartels, and they eliminated organised crime forever. So the knock-on effect there is that Larcen probably saved Shadow as well, because if her organised crime syndicate never came to be, then she wouldn't have been thrown off the building in 1993. So, cumulative effects there of one change in the timeline. I really hope they do go ahead with making a movie of this game, because hopefully it would lead to a reboot of the game series as well, because the lore here is great. There is so much you could do with, I mean, you could fight anybody from across time and history. Think about it, you know, you could have like a Roman centurion fighting a samurai. You could have, you know, a futuristic cyborg like racks going up against a, you know, a Greek Spartan. There's so much you could do with it. I really hope Sega do have plans to revisit Eternal Champions, but there's been several failed attempts to bring it back in the past, so I don't know. But, you know, maybe it could happen. I'm hopeful. But in the meantime, we will continue playing through this game. We'll do the odd game here, the odd playthrough here and there, and we will cover all the characters over the course of the next few weeks and months ahead. So today was Larcen, who was the character I'm most comfortable playing with, but we are going to try them all at some point. Next up, we'll probably do Trident. He was quite a good character as well. This will probably become a weekly series, I think. Every week we'll do a different character. I don't want to do it all, play the same game all the time. It gets a bit tedious. But yeah, we will be back probably in a week or so, and we'll do Trident next time, and then we'll work our way through all the characters. So, that has been Eternal Champions. Thank you for watching Tartan Samurai Gaming. Please stay tuned, retro gaming content uploaded every single day. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.